10 minutes later. Oh, we're streaming. Hello.
We're live.
Hello. Oh, wait a
Hello.
second. I don't know
Yes.
why it gets me unsupported request. I don't know, but it says we're live.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it seems and
wow.
it's saying, so let me just check. Why don't I
Let's
check
check.
if, yeah.
Let's see.
Yes, it says you're live, so you're live.
So
We're
we're
live.
live. Aw,
We are alive.
we are live. And we're talking about one topic that, heck, I mean, out of control.
Oh,
How is
yes.
it being out of control as a mom? And can you even ever manage that? I'm curious. Actually, Adrian shared just a very cool news with me about like a personal news. So I don't know if you want to share it with everyone or we'll just stay on topic.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So basically, I have three. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Adrian from Hungary. I'm be have going on her way, exploring all the possibilities with access consciousness, and I'm a mom of three sons. And my oldest one, we just got the news yesterday, was accepted to university. So, and he's going to be in the countryside, and he's just creating his own life, and it's such an interesting experience and time and all that. And I'm so excited for him. And I
It
want to
is.
know it all, and I want to have him safe, and I want him create a life that I
I
want him to
know.
be happy as all that stuff. So being out of control, that's always kind of like tricky. I'm trying and failing and trying and failing, and yeah, the cycle of moms.
Well, welcome to the life of moms.
Yeah,
It's funny.
exactly.
I love it that like I love how early on we learn to associate that control means safety and that basically as a parent we are in a role of control. And I think it's interesting that I mean I always think that we are born as kids. So the first thing that we get projected on is kid. You're a young someone that can partly but mainly cannot take care of himself herself and I know that as parents the first way we see our kids even though they might be going to college and my kids just came back from 1 month in South America and they were traveling alone, the eldest and the youngest one. And it's funny because I think that one thing that we kind of forget as parents is to update the file, refresh the page and to be like, okay, they're not itty bitty things anymore. They're young adults or they're very responsible teens or yeah, I don't know, they're 10. They wanna, it's not even a thing to sleep in the big bed with mom and dad. They have their own room and they want to enjoy it that way. And well, and this is, I mean, those are not necessarily places where control is required, but we really learned that our kids are babies and they need us.
Yeah. And how many times do we still call them, oh, my sweet little one, my baby, my, I don't know, whatever
True.
words.
It's so true. Endearing terms as a way to keep them where they are. I love you, Adrian. That's such a sneaky thing we do.
Exactly, exactly. I try to catch myself, but I it still slips that, oh, my baby in Hungarian, Baba. It's a
Oh,
similar. So it's like, okay, Baba, what's going on? And he's taller than me. He has a stinky
exactly.
big feet. I mean,
And
he's
Baba
not a
has a
baby.
mustache and a beard and he's much taller than I know the feeling because my Baba. I mean, in Italian, the endearment term that I use is Ani. So I can use it with whomever. It's not like age related. But I totally get it. Like I totally get it. How we're kind of, I would say, even entrained to think that our kids need us rather than our kids chose us.
Exactly.
And they might require some assistance on the way, but what would it take to also allow them to let us know? And like, I'm not going to go into early childhood, like baby childhood, but usually kids get their ways around, I would say, quite easily. And what if it's like, what if they're not crying because they need you and they're helpless, but what if that's their primary way of communicating with you? And I know
Hmm.
that many moms, and I still know me as a mom, I'm terrible. My kids, like my youngest kid is 10, so I got out of the baby phases many moons ago. But I know that like I I see kids around and my brain is like, oh, that's a I'm tired cry. That's a I'm really pissed cry. Might want to check his diaper. And I kind of, I kind of know the shouting, the cries of the baby. And then I just like I'm like, girl, none of your business. You're out of the diaper phase. Yours are not baby anymore. They can use their own words. Um, but what would it take for us to change our perspective from a need to a choice? Like, what can we and could we create as parents if our kids chose us rather than just happen to us and then need us to perform something? And sometimes, as young moms, we really have no clue what they want. I don't know
Exactly.
about you, but I recall my first kid. It was such a different experience from the third one.
Well, that was a trial and fail, trial and
Exactly.
fail. And it's so interesting when when we just decided to talk about control. Actually, the first book I got when I was expecting my first child was from the 70s, and probably most of you our age heard about it, which is Dr. Spock's. And it's like, just feed it every 3 hours, put it back, let it cry, blah. It was just such an order that, okay, you had like a manual, but the kids are just not like u uniform. They are just so different. And and again, when you are becoming a mom, you just have all this information. Should I breastfeed? Should I not? Shall I sleep with him or her? Shall I not? Blah, just so much stuff, and it's so interesting. But everything seems to be just way too controlled when it comes to children.
Oh my God. And it's isn't that crazy that you start like there it's such a normative approach to your own reality with parenting so early on, even when you're expecting. And I know that
Mhm.
my fam like I know my family owns because they're like somewhere in the attic, the Dr. Spock book, the one that you were talking about. Um and I know that I mean, my mom and my grandma kind of told me they were like, there is this book, and I recall opening it and immediately being like, nope, that no, I cannot start stressing myself about timings and weighing like it's interesting because on one side it's an exercise in presence,
Mhm.
and I recall it's funny because I was like I did not have the access consciousness tool when I was pregnant with my first kid, but I recall thinking, this is a business manual. And for me, it was
Mhm.
very associated with like money, financial awareness. I don't know. It was really a money thing in a way for me. It was like, wake up in the morning and check your internet banking. And then, I don't know, and then check the stock of the days, the how it's going and da da da. And I was like, nope, I'm not. I mean, that sounds stressing already. And I remember that looking at all around me, I couldn't see, like I just turned 21. And so I remember that seeing people around that were having a baby was such a different experience. Like people were a little bit like, or quite elder than me, or they had a husband and a career and whatever. And I was starting, like I was finishing my college actually. So I had no career. I had a title, but means
Yeah.
nothing. And I recall being like, no, I cannot see anyone around me that has anything similar to what I have going on. And also I already was like I had my kids with an Olympic athlete, so it was on the move all the time. Like so it was not even it was a stable relationship, but it was not a stable frequency of sharing stuff or living in the
Uh-huh.
same house. So it was like having a kid a bit as a single mom, but not as a single mom. But I was like, no, nothing checks. Like there, that I no. So I'm just gonna choose what works for me, and I'm gonna use this all of this information that's out there to support what I want to do. And I recall that something that came up a lot for me was with enough data you can prove anything.
Mhm.
And so I recall that, like, for example, when my kids were born, like my first kid was born, there was this thing about teaching them to sleep on their own from the very beginning. That's an Italian thing. Like, they need to know how to suit themselves. And I was like, that's amazing, but he's maybe 3 hours old or 1 day old, and I don't care about him being able to suit himself. I care
Hmm.
about like continuing to have this contact with him, because he's been in my belly and now all of a sudden he needs to learn to be independent and, pay his taxes. What is it? I was like, no, that's not. And I don't mean that as that's right, that's the way
Yeah.
to do it, but for me it was not making any sense. It was like, yeah, that's awesome, and I'm gonna get there, but not just now. I'm gonna enjoy some time. And then I stumbled across like some like articles or a blog or something about like Japanese parenting, and what they actually used as a guideline there was 9 months in the belly, and then for the next 9 months they do co-sleeping, for example.
Uh-huh.
And it was fairly new when I was like 15 years ago when I had my kid. Co-sleeping was not a term that was used in Italy at all, or it was not something that was acknowledged as one possible parenting sleep approach. um and I recall I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for me. I like it. Like, as I don't know, like as an animal, I feel that's gonna work for this kid. Yes, I'm gonna do that. And it changed throughout the kids. It was not always the same, but that was it was interesting because I remember that this choice was something that was including him, and that was including me as a mom as well. Like, I was like that. And I, again, I'm not for or against co-sleeping. I recall that for this season of life, it was a way for me to include me, because I was like, logically, he needs to be close to his mommy and feel her heartbeat. But on the other side was like, logically, I need to be close to my baby and feel his heartbeat. It was like my requirement as well. And I don't know how it has been for you, and if Hungary is so crazy with sleep things as well. Italy is.
It's I think like everywhere they have like the two type of people sleep together or sleep close or not or have a separate room. And I know that you were just saying, and you put it so beautifully, that I wanted him to be close to my heartbeat, and I wanted me to feel his heartbeat. For me, I was just that tired. I was breastfeeding my son, and I was like, I ain't no getting up 3 times during the night. So I bought a nightgown with lots of buttons, and literally I just button it open, grab him here. Okay, you know what? Serve yourself. I'm
Oh,
sleeping.
I know.
So it's
I
like,
think I think that moms would make such a good stripper. We're used to just like juggle this part like well, if we do, I breastfed my kids too, but I think we're so used to like flash our boobs everywhere and be like, yeah, sure. It's
but
just
it's okay because now, after so many years, when I bumped into the access consciousness tools, I just now realize, and is it time to acknowledge that how much I knew what was actually working for us. And it was such a beautiful, really, from this space of communion that, okay, and just as you said, they are all different. My first one and my third one, they were just cry babies. They used me to soothe themselves. My middle one, on the other hand, I fed him, I don't know, 9, 10 p.m., and he slept throughout the night. And actually, I was poking him that, is he
are
really
you
alive?
alive? I know the feeling when you're like putting the finger under the nose and be like, okay, is
Do
he
I
alive?
feel it?
And then with the third kids, you are not. I remember that with my third kids, I started counting like a German Shepherd when I went out or something. I was like, okay. And Wisteria was like, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I got all my kids. I can go, because I was really afraid that I would forget him somewhere. But just because he was used to have me, and then he was used like my not the first kid, but the second and the third one. They were fascinated with the elder brother, and the brothers were fascinated with them. So
Mhm.
many times I recall like I don't know, hearing them move or cry or something and coming to them, and their brothers already picked them up, or already, I don't know, were like talking with them and just like, you need a diaper change, let's go. And but even if there was, we're really small, like the age
Mhm.
difference was 3 and then 5, from the
Uh-huh.
first Sura, but they were already so into them, so they knew that they had more um reference people than just mom. So it was mom and my brother, mom and my two brothers. So it was it's such a different experience.
Yeah, it is. And again, how many times do I really expect them to be the same and just treat them like, okay, one is like this and the second and the third. And then you realize that you have three completely different beings, and the only thing is in common is you and they're dead. And period. Literally.
Yeah. The
Literally.
same ingredients, very different outcome.
Exactly. That would make you a bad chef, on the other hand, but I think when
Yes.
it comes to parenting, it's just so awesome. It's just so awesome.
I find it amazing how these conversations, and it might look like I had several people pinging me lately that were not yet parent, but they were looking at the possibility of becoming a parent. Um and we were talking about these tools, and I was looking at how much the way we have been grown by our parents and the way that then we take care of another human being is such a like it's such a deep programming that we might want to really look at, and
Mhm.
not as a serious significant things but as a way to even, I would say, tweak ourselves into greatness, because we learn something as real and they might not be so, they might not apply anymore. And I think that parenting is, I mean, I'm always fascinated because you cannot turn it off even when your kids
Mhm.
are far away, even when they're adults, even when they're sleepy. You cannot turn it off. Like, it's a constant training. And I know for some, I have a very dear friend, she's a speech therapist, and she always talk about my kids, even though she has two daughters. And let's go with three because one is the daughter of her ex-spouse, but still, she have
Uh-huh.
a finite number of daughters. And then she always think about like my kids, because it's such an intimate relationship that she has with her patients. And intimate doesn't mean that she changes her diaper, but she intervene in one specific moment in their life. And for her, it's when there is a challenge. So it
Yeah.
can be like both a physical challenge or something else. And so like her task is to see the kid, and rather than label him as wrong or label this thing as bad, something that happened, accompany the kids and the parent out of the bushes, but with them walking out of the bushes. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the difference between empowering and, I don't know, I would say being a surgeon and just taking it off, like taking it completely all on you, or empowering all the people included to have a different conversation, to choose
Mhm.
something different, to look at where you are and what brought you there. Um, So I don't know. I'm actually honestly fascinated. I think as daughter and son, we might not realize how much of a 24/7, 365 days a year work it is. But as parents, you start to realize what a mental load it is as well, honestly.
But also, and I think it's just coming up and our age, how much that is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, our parents are kind of getting old, so there is this circle of life, and it's so interesting. Like, have you ever really looked at an elderly person and a baby? I mean, hairless, toothless,
Yeah, yes.
wearing diapers, need to be fed, and you can just name it.
Yeah.
And we are just like as a sandwich generation, we just have to be not just parents. We are parents, yes, 24/7, but we are also daughters or sons of somebody else, and that never
Oh God.
changes either. So it's like,
Totally. No, I love it. That's absolutely something that it's so interesting to realize when you really are in the kind of middle of this like caring whirlpool, and you're both looking down to your kids in a way, like to the youngest generation, but you're also starting to look at the eldest generation and be like, okay. And I know that it's funny, it's the first summer for me that I really had this conversation of like taking care of both without forgetting me,
mhm.
because that's something that we really need to include to kind of avoid the breakdown, or to just basically live a more full and enjoyable life, I would say. But
Yeah,
like that's one relationship that I know that we need to learn to prioritize, which is the one with ourselves as well. And that's not from a selfish point of view, that's rather from a sustainable and
exactly.
sustainability point of view. And sometimes as parents, it's so easy to forget that you need to like fill your cup first and then
Exactly.
attend to your kids. And I don't even like the verb attending because it looks like you're some sort of like waiter or something. And actually, Adrian, it's funny enough, the other day, right before my kids were arriving, they arrived on Tuesday night late, and I remember that I was taking a shower, and I was chatting with my husband, and I was saying it's funny that I feel like I'm preparing myself to be on duty again. And there was
Uh-huh.
this like in a way military term that came up for me, and I was like, fuck, that is, on when nurses and doctors are, oh my god, we say reperibile, like on call, like that you
Uh-huh.
can call them anytime and they need to show up. And I was looking at that, I was like, wow, everything that I created parenting as that it isn't, I destroy and uncreated, and everything that I've created parenting that it isn't, that is, I destroy and uncreated. And then that's the very interesting part for me. We all have different things. I know that the army thing, my husband is an access consciousness certified facilitator, so we're lucky enough that we really never switch it off. There is always, oh, there is one
Hi.
very sleepy buddy coming over. And um and so I know that for me the army things rank way more than the like duty thing, like the nurses or doctor thing. And then you get the chance to look at you personally and what that brings up from maybe even past lifetime of or past experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and what approach you might be using. And I was really looking at like being a surgeon on a mission and having to make sure that everyone was safe on a
Yeah.
special corps kind of thing. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's interesting and very stressful. And I might not need to choose that anymore, or very rigid in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what if parenting can actually be different?
Yes. And what I find with these tools is that they really empower you as a parent to have the tools to look and take care of you. Like to
Mm-hmm.
fill your own cup, not only your kids or your parents' cup, but your own cup as a being, as both a kid and an adult, because you're both. Again, you are a kid that grew up. I don't know if you get that sometime, Adrian. I know that every time I get into a car, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lucky I get to drive. And I sometimes say it out loud. And I recall the first time that I said it, my husband was like, you do have a driving license, right? He was a bit worried, like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, okay, so why are you lucky? And I was like, well, because I love driving. And he was like, yeah, sweetie, and you're 30. That's fine. You got your permit many moons ago. And I was like, yeah, but I still love it. Like, I still find it extremely enjoyable. And I always think, like, oh my God, I get away with driving, even though I got all the cards and the permits. And of course, I can drive. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, like, driving, it's a bit like this. I don't know. It's not like a dream. Yeah, but it's a bit like a childhood dream that I got to
Yeah.
accomplish. And I still feel it every time, especially when I drive on the mountainside. I'm like, oh my God, I get to drive. And it's like, yes, of course. But it's also like, a dream come true in a way. Um,
Yeah.
but these conscious parent, conscious kids tools really help you to kind of be able to independently triangulate you in the equation again, to find
Mm-hmm.
you, to know where you're coming from, and to know how to access your resources and use them to your advantage, both as a parent, as a therapist, or like a technician, as a foster parent. Oh my God, like foster parenting, I don't know, I got to chat with the most amazing, beautiful people, and they were doubts and I don't know, guilt ridden for not being the biological parent. It was like, it's fine, it's amazing. Like they are your kids.
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but it was amazing. And they were like, oh my God, but I don't feel the biological stimulus, but I do feel it, but it's not. And it's crazy. Like, what would it take for you to, rather than drive yourself crazy, have some tools that kind of lead the way back to sanity and consciousness and being aware rather than prepared, which is something that most of us as parents, we do that.
Yeah, I guess we could like talk about it for hours and hours and hours. And we will do because we will have some lives coming up still
Yeah.
until on the 16th and 17th of August. You are coming to Budapest, Hungary
Yes.
for a Conscious Parents, Conscious Kids class, which is also available online
Hmm.
and maybe in languages if you require. So we'll see Hungarian for sure. So,
Yes.
so just stay tuned and come to the class and see us
Yeah.
going live every now and then and all that. It will be
Yeah.
lovely and fun.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Adrian. And by the way, I will do a shameless plug. There is, if you, and I will put it somewhere in the comment, if you go on my Instagram, I'm doing 5 minutes daily live of pills of access consciousness tools. So there, I mean, they're not translated, but the text kind of, the caption kind of says something,
Uh-huh.
I would say. But if you're curious about more and what this could create in your future and for you as a parent, as a kid, or as a blank space, whatever you be, you can go and explore like some pills of that. It's free and it's, 5 minutes, under five.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Go there. Sign up.
Yes, awesome. And hopefully, we will chat soon. Thank you,
Yes,
Adrian, so, so, so
definitely.
much.
And I
Yes.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.